Okay, we're going to take a break now. We're going to take the sifter and we're going to set it on the shimming platform. Back a little bit, Rand. That's good. Right there. Right there. Ho. Okay, down. Down. Okay, forklift out. Okay, what we're going to do now is put 4 of our shimming tools on. And that shimming tool is a piece of angle with an adjustable bolt on it that allows us to adjust the wheel on all 4 legs to make sure we get it perfectly level. By leveling the wheel, we're going to in turn level the upper spindle because they're all fastened together on machine surfaces. And by having the sifter setting on a flat, level surface, leveling the wheels, we can then put on the X-frame and have that run perfectly true and flat. The shimming is probably the most misunderstood and probably causes most of the wear on the sifter decks. If the sifter is shimmed correctly, it will run in a 2.5-inch circle day in and day out, causing no wear on the decks or the stabilizer assemblies on the sifter. With these shim tools, it's very easy to get the wheels lined up. If you don't have the shim tools, I recommend you use the tapered wood shims and drive them in. You want to rock it in both directions to make sure it's tight. And why don't we put the level back on there and bring the camera in and show you exactly how level it is. What we're doing is we're putting on 4 1/8-inch rods, which will give us our proper clearance. Now we're going to bring the X-frame over and mount the stabilizer assemblies to it. What we do is turn it upside down, and we're going to take the 4 stabilizer assemblies and we're going to mount them to the X-frame. When you mount the stabilizer assemblies, you want the bolts to be out and to the right. This way, when you flip it over, you don't have the end of a bolt hitting into the motor mount. And we'll simply bolt these down with lock washers. Now what's going to happen when they get these bolted down and tightened up, they will turn it over, and since we know we've got that upper wheel perfectly flat and level, we know the X-frame will be sitting on the sifter perfectly flat and level. Since we've got several machine surfaces all stacked up, we're going to put in the shim stock between the bottom clevis on the stabilizer assembly and the top leg of the spider base. The reason we do it this way is we can put in whatever shim stock is required to fill in the gap, and if the machining is off a thousandths or 2, we can fill it in with shim stock. This assures that the machine is going to run in a perfectly flat and true and level environment, which will cause no wear to the decks or to the legs that they're putting on right now. And we'll turn the camera off here when we start using the air tool to tighten them up. What we're going to do now, we've got all 4 legs on the X-frame. We're going to set it on top of the 1/8 inch rods, and we're going to fill in all the available space between the legs and the spider base with shim stock. The shims come in 3 different thicknesses. And the option is to just very easily put the shim stock in. We don't want to raise the X-frame up. We just want to fill in the void. Okay, once we get the shims under, what we're going to do is press down on all 4 legs. Make sure that they're down tight. And then we're going to take out the 4 rods. And we're going to bolt the stabilizer assemblies in place. Now we've got the 4 stabilizer legs down. DJ, give it a move so they can see that you've still got 1/8 of an inch clearance. And what we're going to do then is take off the clamps. We're going to push the stabilizers and the X-frame over to line up our upper spindle. That means that each one of the 4 legs is going to have exactly the same angle on it, and will rotate then in a perfect 2.5 inch circle. It is impossible to take one of those stabilizer assemblies out and put it back in one at a time and do it correctly. That's why we recommend that once a year you change your stabilizer assemblies, and at the same time line them up, level it up, and they'll be good for another year. What usually happens is somebody will take out one stabilizer assembly and they can't get the new one back in place, so they don't put the shim stock in place. And then when they tighten it down, that one particular leg becomes shorter by whatever thickness the shim stock was. And I'll show you what happens in that case in a moment. Okay, now what we're going to do, if we can get a real tight shot, is, Randy, if you rotate it, this is going to rotate it in a 2.5 inch circle, and it will be perfectly flat. So that means that it's shimmed up correctly, and the sifter will run forevermore in a perfect flat concentric 2.5 inch circle. By doing that, your stabilizer legs are going to last at least a year, and the decks that are above it are going to get very long life. Now we're going to take a break here, and I'm going to put a hopper on here, and I'm going to put a broken deck on here and show you what happens when these shims are not put in place. Okay, what we've got here now is an old beat up hopper and a deck. The reason these decks crack in the corner is whoever sent these decks in had this stabilizer assembly shimmed up improperly. If this stabilizer assembly is shimmed up, say, 1/8 of an inch too low, what we're doing is